Hello everyone, welcome to Tea and Chat with Sharis and my sister wife Vanessa.
Hi.
What are we drinking today?
Today's tea, because we're having it kind of in the late afternoon on this lovely stormy day, is called Alpine Fire. It is by the Swiss Alpine Herbs Company, and it's actually a really beautiful herbal tea. It has, let me tell you about it, choke cherries, scarlet bee balm, apple mint, nettle, hibiscus, juniper berries, cornflower, red cloves, cornflower red, cloves, cinnamon. So it's really lovely. I've had a lot of teas from this company, and they're very, very fresh. They taste very pure. The herbal notes are just very clean. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Clean.
Yes, I would agree.
So that's what we're enjoying this evening, and it's very pleasant. It's got a beautiful pink color.
I don't know if you guys can see that. It's beautiful pink color.
All right.
So last week, Vanessa and I compared our top 3 personal reasons why we chose to live this way. And this week we thought it would be interesting and fun to compare the top 3 I call them challenges that you may or may not face living this lifestyle.
Yeah, as we were discussing it, and the idea of somebody said, oh yeah, I'd love to talk about the drawbacks. I thought, well, drawbacks is kind of not the word I'm looking for. I feel like the word challenge fits it better, because everything in life can have its challenges. It doesn't mean it's bad or not worthwhile. And with each of these challenges, I thought, okay, well, sometimes it's hard, but overcoming these elements, there's usually something better on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's usually the case with a challenge. If you can face the challenge, overcome it, then you get some kind of a reward for doing it.
Yeah.
And I felt that way with putting together this list.
Yeah.
So, I guess I can start.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
All right. The number one thing that I have on my list, this is the most common thing that everyone talks about, is jealousy.
Ah.
I don't know if that's on your list.
It is not. It almost made it onto my list.
Wow.
It almost made it onto my list, but it didn't.
Okay, well. From everybody who I talk to who doesn't live this way, many, many women talk about, I could never do that, I'm too jealous.
Yeah, hear that a lot.
Or women who want to live this way and say, I'm not a jealous person, and then they get married and realize, oh, I have some jealousy. So I just wanted to talk about that one. There's a lot to talk about with jealousy.
Yeah.
And I have to say that when there is jealousy involved, you have to be able to distinguish between the difference of, is the jealousy because something is genuinely happening that shouldn't be? Or is it just your personal insecurities that make you feel jealous, even though it's still okay, things that are happening are appropriate and normal and acceptable? For example, there might be a man who is having an affair and his wife is jealous. Well, that kind of jealousy is warranted.
Yeah.
That kind of insecurity I can understand.
Yeah.
Because his behavior justifies that. It explains why it's existing, and it's existing for a reason.
Yeah.
When I talk about jealousy, I think in the context of my family, it's usually in the case of, I'm feeling insecure, but I trust that my husband is doing things that are appropriate, that I have agreed to, and that I'm jealous of his time, or I'm jealous of somebody else, and it almost always results from an insecurity in me. And that is very, very normal. I have yet to meet a woman who doesn't actually feel those feelings. Yep. And I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling that way. If you can determine that this feeling that I'm feeling is jealousy, and I'm kind of jealous of my sister wife because I want my husband's time, but I did agree that she is part of the family and she deserves his time, and so I just need to find ways to be okay with this. That's something that can be worked through. Now,
Another thing, I don't think that jealousy is just strictly a polygyny problem either.
No.
You can have monogamous women who are jealous of their husbands, of his friends, and the time he spends out playing sports and things like that. So
Yeah.
So,
A
yeah.
lot of these things that we brought, these points that we make, I realize these challenges they don't only exist in polygynous families. They also exist, I think every single one of them exists in other more conventional marriage styles as well. So, in talking about jealousy, it's a pretty complicated subject matter, and I don't feel like I can touch on everything in this setting, but I do think that when in instances of jealousy where it's a personal situation, where it's just mostly feelings of insecurity, I think that's very normal. And if once you go past it, like I feel like for the most part, I have very rare occasions where I have moments of jealousy. Not because I'm like super amazing or anything, but because I've been able to face those elements enough that they don't trigger a response in me. They don't trigger an insecurity. And I feel good about who I am, where I am, my relationship with my husband. And because I've faced those things, I now have a more secure and sturdy sense of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it no longer affects me.
Yeah.
I feel like I have overcome the majority of those feelings.
Yeah, I think that I could say the same. I'm not perfect. There are moments where I still feel jealousy, but for the most part, when I find myself going down that road and experiencing those feelings, I know what's on the other side of that road, or I know what's down that road. I know what comes of not trusting my husband or giving in to these personal insecurities, and I don't like it. And so it's kind of like, whoa, I know where this goes. Stop. Self-reflection. Why am I feeling this way? Right. And is it justified? No. Okay, so let's address the real issue. Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling?
And almost like breaking a bad habit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I know this is not going to serve me.
No.
This is not like a warning sign of something that I need to be aware of. I already know that it's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was the number one thing I thought should go on the list.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, my number one thing is something that can be challenging is different parenting styles. And that again, that's not something that's just a polygamous problem. You can find that in a monogamous couple as well. A husband's parenting style might be very different from his wife's, singular. And
or in cases of mixed families.
Yeah. So it's like it's not just a polygamist issue, but if you can figure out how to talk about different differences with bringing up kids, and okay, what are we going to do in this situation? How can we both be satisfied in these situations? What should I do? You're not happy with how I handle things in this situation, so I'll just send them your way. If you can overcome it, then your kids can gain an extra parent, an extra mom. And so yeah, that's one of those things that it's like, it's a challenge, but the blessing of overcoming it is worth the challenge.
Well, I think you and I have experienced that very thing. As we've raised our kids together, we've had to look at, okay, we live in the same home, we are in the same family, but we're different people.
Yeah.
How are we going to manage this? We could have taken the path of, all right, you do your thing, I do mine, and we're just going to be separate. But ultimately, that just didn't feel like the optimal way to move forward. It was like, all right, ideally, we would like to be able to parent together. Yeah. Between Jeff and you and me. And I think that's better for the kids, too, because there's less room for manipulation as well. Yeah. Because that definitely exists when there's multiple parents with different perspectives. I'm sure any parent or any child who has lived in a divorced situation understands that. My parents divorced, and I do understand from a child's perspective how it can be difficult when you've got one parent doing one thing, one parent doing another thing, and to know how to exist in those different worlds. Yeah,
and they learn pretty quick how to play that situation to their advantage.
Yeah.
Which parent can I go to find my yes? And which parent can I go to when I don't want something to happen, when I do want something to happen. They learn how to play that.
Sure, and that's because they're intelligent.
Yeah, yes, they are. And so the more on the same page we can be, then I think, it's actually easier for the kids. They know what to expect, and the rules don't change based on who they're talking to.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely something we've faced, and I think we've made a very, like, there's always going to be things, no matter how long you live, where you can improve. But I feel like what we have in our family is very functional. We try to have that dialogue of, okay, what's working, what's not. In this situation, maybe we should approach it this way, etc. And we try to be on the same team to support each other and to support the kids. And that is definitely not unique to polygamous families.
No.
But it definitely exists in polygamous families. But having worked through it, I feel like it's way better for the kids.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
I appreciate it, having other parents there.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's an extra set of eyes.
It's true. You read fun stories online about, kids who are like misbehaving in a grocery store or being rude to their parents at a park, and a random stranger will step in and be like, hey, and set them straight. And, this idea of, there's, these people who are there for each other, who are there for you, who back you up. It's like, yeah, it'd be nice if that's just built in. And so many times, like, kids know how to push their parents' buttons.
Oh, yeah.
And, like Chloe, she's 4 now. But, when she was littler, she would just cry and whine but Mom, and she wouldn't give me a real reason why I shouldn't leave the house or I shouldn't go do this or whatever. And she was just crying because she knew eventually I'd cave and be like, okay, fine, I'll stay home or you can come with me. But having Vanessa there, I could be like, okay, I'm leaving. Vanessa could pick her up and be like, hey, bye, Mom. And I could walk away knowing she was completely fine and that she couldn't push Vanessa's buttons the way she could push mine. Mm-hmm. And so just, having each other's back.
Well, she knew it. And so usually once Sharis left the room, she was like, okay, I'm fine. There's nothing. Let's go have fun.
Oh, that's not going to work anymore. I'm done. So,
yeah. And she would. She would be completely fine just like 10 seconds after you left.
Yeah. Yep. So, it can be challenging, but if overcome, and it has to be overcome constantly because kids change constantly, it can be a real blessing.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Well, my number 2, I would say, is a little bit similar to the one you just brought up with sharing the disciplining of children. Mm-hmm. I have on here sharing spaces. And I think that relates to, like in our situation, we share the same home. We share a husband and we share the same home. So we share the kitchen, we share the living room, and we share common areas of the house.
Yeah.
And anybody who's ever had a roommate can understand the challenges of that. It can be difficult. That's why a lot of times you have to set up rules and expectations. And then you're always going to get a combination of like, this person's more uptight than this person, or this person is like a clean freak and this person is really relaxed, or whatever dynamic. Everyone is different from each other, and it's rare that you don't have some kind of difficulty trying to just coexist in the space.
Yeah, just like there's different parenting styles, there's different housekeeping styles, and here's the correct way to wash dishes. Here's the correct way to sweep a floor, and so. Sometimes they clash.
Yes, they do. In our case, there has been a lot of negotiation. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, okay, this issue is the problem. How often does the garbage get taken out? Or whatever, fill in the blank. And it's like, well, maybe Sharis feels like it should be taken out every so often, and I feel differently about it. So we've had to sit down and go, okay, ultimately, what do we want here? And what's a reasonable expectation that can either satisfy both of us, or we can kind of try one and see if it works, and then try a different thing if that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we've done that from, keeping up on the dishes and the household chores. And
meal prep, all the things.
Yeah. Or even like, watching a movie late at night in the living room. Like, how does that affect the family? It's like all the little things. I guess when you have just one husband and one wife, there still can be those dynamics.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear it about how to load the dishwasher properly all the time, or put the seat down, or let the toilet seat stay up. Like, this kind of thing exists everywhere.
Yeah. The only difference in a polygamous situation is that there's There can be many, 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 many people with many, many, many different opinions on how things should be done that all have the right to have a voice.
Right.
And so you just got to sit down and figure it out. Okay, so what if we can't agree as to what's the right thing, what can we agree is the expected thing?
Right.
So,
yeah. And I think that's very healthy. And to be honest, I think having multiple perspectives can be very enriching.
it can. It can solve so many problems.
Yeah. Like, I can be more uptight, and Sharis is much more relaxed. And so sometimes, anybody who's uptight can understand, like, you feel like things have to be a certain way, and when they're not, it gets frustrating. Then I see Sharis, and she's just chilling, and I'm like, well, that looks relaxing. I should learn to be more chill. Like, that's so much more an enjoyable state to be in. It doesn't mean I have to change who I am, but I should adopt those elements that Sharis displays to make myself be able to enjoy life a little better.
Well, thank you.
So there's just so many times that somebody else's perspective, even though it's not what we see in the moment, can really offer something new to a situation that can be really beneficial.
Yeah, and that's true. Back to different parenting styles, that's very true in that situation as well. Sometimes you just beat your head against a stone wall trying to figure out, how can I help my kid through this issue? What can I do? And I have no idea what to do. And then someone else's perspective is like, oh, well, have you tried this? And it's like, oh, duh, I haven't. And that can work. And so having someone who's kind of aware of all the situations and what's going on, but has a slightly different perspective can be very, very helpful.
Yeah.
So,
but in order to make it work, you really have to be willing to make it work and want to create something that's functional.
Yeah.
If you stand your ground and be like, you know what, no matter what, this is principle and I will die on this hill, that doesn't always serve you. Sometimes you just have to give a little. Not because maybe your way is the superior way, but you have to kind of give a little and try something different. Sometimes you try something different and go, okay, that was a failure. Back to my plan.
Yeah.
It's definitely a give and take.
Yeah.
And you have to give respect and see the person that you're dealing with for who they are and their values.
Yeah. But on the flip side, something that comes with that challenge is that you have somebody there to help with the parenting, someone there to help with the house cleaning, someone there to help with the cooking. And so, yes, is it a challenge that someone is different? Yes, but it comes with the blessing that somebody is different.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's not all bad. There's a lot of good in that.
Yeah.
Well, what's next on your list?
Okay, next on my list, this, I pulled this one from way back when I was actually courting Jeff. And I know this is not the case with just me. I know a lot of polygamous women who go through this. But when your husband is courting a new woman and he's falling in love, it can make you realize your own personal insecurities.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I remember when I was courting Jeff, I was aware that just Jeff falling in love with me was hurting Vanessa. And that was very interesting to navigate, because it was like, I'm not doing anything wrong. She knows I'm not doing anything wrong. She's okay with her husband getting to know me, but I know that brings up insecurities and that I am hurting someone else by doing what I feel is right. That is very difficult. And so that's what I have on my list as a challenge. And I've been on the flip side. I've been on the other side of that, as my husband has courted other women and had to face my own personal insecurities. And so I know that on the other side of that challenge, if you can move through it, you can have a wonderful family, you can have a friend and a sister wife, and you can, especially if you face your own personal insecurities, so much. You can overcome so much and become a much better person, a much stronger person, more than you ever imagined or envisioned for yourself. But that is a challenge when you join a polygamous family. You're the catalyst for these people.
The catalyst for change, for sure.
Yes, you are changing a circumstance, and change can be rough. And so I remember that was a challenge that I struggled with. And I remember when I was courting Jeff, you were pregnant. And that comes with its own slew of emotions and hormonal ups and downs. And I felt like I was adding to it, and I was like, maybe I should just back off and wait and not get married until after the baby's born, or, but I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. So yeah, that can be a challenge. And, you learn how to be aware of other people and what they're going through. So again, it's not all bad, it's just difficult.
Yeah. I think that being aware of how people are feeling, but also not allow it to change your course unless it needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Like, it was challenging, and you don't want to hurt somebody. You
No.
don't want to make them feel bad, but sometimes moving through that is necessary.
Yeah.
Just going through change. It's not always comfortable, but if you want the change, then the discomfort you face is worthwhile.
Yeah.
And so even in a courtship, even though I had my hormones and my emotions and the rising insecurities that I didn't know were there, watching Jeff in his courtship with Sharis, I didn't want to stop it, but I just had to face those elements in me. So,
yeah, and if you had been like, I need this, pause, wait till the baby's born, then I would be like, yep, I will see you then. Good luck,
Right.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, so it can be really interesting to be in a position where you know that moving forward is hurting someone that you desire to have a deep relationship with.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
It is starting to rain. We might need to expedite this conversation. Talk fast.
All right. Well, my last one on my list is I put on here time together. What I mean by that is time with my husband. That when you share your husband with another woman or women, it does affect your amount of time you spend with your husband. But that being said, there are many situations in monogamous families where that is still a challenge. Husband might have to work out of town a lot, or he might have his projects or hobbies or friends that he spends time with that take away from, we only have 24 hours in a day, and we can't consume all of that and expect that our husband will give us 24 hours of that. He has other things in his life. I have agreed to let Sharis be one of those things that my husband has in his life. Thankfully, he's not a gamer, so I'm not sharing him with the computer screen, but I'm sharing him with another woman. So there is that challenge. And one of the things that the strengths that come through facing that challenge that any of us can find is that if you can't lean on your husband all the time, you have to develop an inner strength. You have to develop a reliance on your own abilities and your own company, and can't just look to your husband to solve your problems. Hopefully he still can help you with that, but maybe he can't be there all the time. And is that a bad thing? I don't think so. I think there's real value in finding who you are and what is valuable in you, and how to enjoy your own company, how to have your own hobbies, how to do things that are for you beside your husband and sister wife.
Yeah.
And I have found a lot of goodness in that too.
Yeah.
I enjoy the time that I have with my husband, and I also enjoy, there's a lot of times where he would like to spend more time with me, but I'm busy. I might be working on a project. And so this goes both ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. No, I think that's really good. The personal and inner strength that you realize is that you're capable of can be really pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, it really can. Kind of the theme of all of these things, I think, is the idea of relationships. That seems to be the common element in all of these, is that the trouble comes when you butt up against another person. And that's where you come into conflict. That's where the challenges arise. Whether it's just your husband or your husband and a sister wife or your roommate, like our lives are about the relationships around us. And in polygamous families, there happens to be a few more relationships thrown in the mix. But really, the keys to all relationships work, whether it's a sister wife or whether it's a roommate or a mother or a friend. And so if you really look at the bottom of the problem, it's like, how do I see that person for who they are, help them overcome their struggles, try to define what we're both looking at, how we can create a way through, and work together.
Yeah, while at the same time looking inside and answering all
definitely.
those questions about yourself. How can I overcome my struggles? How can I become a stronger person?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And every relationship you have is going to reveal to you elements of yourself, whether that's a strength you had and you didn't realize it, or whether that's a weakness you had and didn't realize it.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, okay, well, that's there. Do I harbor it? Do I pet it like a little cat and keep it safe? Or do I want that to be a part of my life? Should I get rid of it? How do I overcome this?
Yeah.
And it gives us all an opportunity to face those parts of ourselves and decide what we want to do with it.
Yep.
And where we go from there is really up to each of us.
Yep. I agree. I heard something one time that I really appreciated. I wish I could remember who said it, but they were talking about relationships and how they are the most important thing in our lives, and how that's who we're going to be remembered for or how we're going to be remembered is by the relationships we had. Mm-hmm. And he said, go to any graveyard and look at any tombstone. You have the person's name, the date they were born, the date they died, and then their accomplishments are things like mother, father, wife, husband, son, daughter, friend. And he's like, it comes down to the relationships you've had. And so yeah, amen. It just boils down to the different relationships you have with people and how you're going to navigate those, and if you're going to use them to become the best possible version of yourself, or if you're going to allow them to be stumbling blocks and blame other people for your own shortcomings and that you can't move forward in life.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. So I think these challenges are very interesting, and they're always food for thought. Like, okay, how would I handle this situation? And so I'm glad we got to talk about them and share them with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any other thoughts you want to share?
I don't think so. Just like and subscribe. That'd be great. So
yeah, I guess we can get out of the rain before it starts coming down.
Yeah, I feel like that was just kind of like an appetizer. Like, it's coming. Hurry, finish. It's coming. So,
well, thanks again, everybody,
for
joining us. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Yeah. We'll see you next time.
See ya.